I like to think of it from different perspectives. I like to think of it from like, okay, here's this guy who's gone rogue. He's selling illegal firearms according to my superiors. And I'm going and I have an objective to do. And I know that he is at least resistant toward the government. And now, as I'm approaching, I've found me a good spot to hide. Here comes a 12-year-old boy with a shotgun or a rifle and a dog. That's a tough spot. You're in a bad spot. I won't speculate on what happened. I've seen speculations from both sides on how those men behaved in that time. But in that transaction, the dog alerts the boy to their presence. And when however they make their presence known to this boy, he raises a rifle and he loses his life. That's a sad world. Man, that's downright mindful.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I don't need backups. I'm going to Harvard.
Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Do or do not. There is no try.
I still have a dream.
Welcome to Downright Mindful, a meeting place where we explore meaning, seek connections, and examine the relationships between people, events, and the ideas that shape our world. Hosted by me, Matt Paris, my friend and colleague Paul Sawswell, each episode will dive into thoughtful conversations that spark reflection and curiosity. Thanks for joining us. Now let's get right down to it.
Y'all still carry cash?
I carry cash only when I think I'm going to need it.
Okay. You carry cash?
Only when I have cash at home sometimes, but I typically it's not
no.
far. That's like if I lived in North Carolina right now, or where all these people are dealing with all this devastation, and it's cash only, I would be a lot thinner.
Yeah. You'd be relying on people to help you out.
Yeah.
Can you remember the last time cash was regular in your pocket? How long has that been? Has it been 5 years? Has it been 10 years?
Somewhere in between, probably. Because since
5 and 10?
I've started working in a school,
Yeah.
I haven't really carried cash. Now, when I was out in the community all day, I'd have some cash in my pocket.
Okay. It's 2024. This happened today. You ready?
Okay.
I paid for something with cash, of course, because I'm a cash carrier. And I gave him a quarter. It was $5.10. I gave him a $10 bill plus a quarter. He froze. He froze. He didn't know what to do with it. He literally said, "What do you want me to do with this?" I was like, "Give me change?" Well, I don't understand. Well, I'd rather have a 5 back than 4 ones in my pocket. And then you could see the ice melt and then go, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, for us cash carriers, I'd rather have a $5 bill than 4 ones with some change." And he was like, "All right." So he gave me his change. But this kid was 22 maybe.
Well, they don't deal with cash. They don't deal with that. Now, I like the change.
I know.
Because at my house, I have one of those 5-gallon water jugs, and I've been working on filling that up for years.
What are you going to do with it when it fills up?
I don't know. Me and my kids and my wife, we're going to include her in that.
You need an admission.
We're going to Disney World, or we're going to spend something fun on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell my kids, find change, just put it in here. The quicker we work as a family to fill this up, the quicker we can spend it.
Love it.
Yeah.
They don't take me serious because they want their change in their piggy banks.
Yeah.
That makes sense too.
So, you ever been that guy? You ever been that guy across the counter that
Probably.
you're taking money all the time, or because
No.
I've heard this conversation.
I've
Used
only
to be
been a
brought up.
custodian, a dorm director, and a teacher.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I've been this guy. I was at McDonald's when I was about 17. Okay, one of the hardest jobs I've ever had, and I would debate that with anybody. I mean, I've had a few jobs now, and it's one of the toughest places I've ever been, because it's you're going to do everything that the real adult world is doing, and you're going to do it under a pretty enormous amount of stress. Your microphone giving you trouble?
Just keep talking about it.
And about half the people that come and deal with you are going to treat you like absolute scum. Okay. But because there's something built within me that I want to do good, is like, I want to be the best McDonald's front counter man that I can be. So
At 17, you were that?
Yeah. I mean, there's still, it's kind of like,
I know who you are now. But
it's
you were
kind of
that
like
at
when you
17.
throw a bunch of kids out on a playground and roll a ball out. Like, you don't have to teach them to want to win. You know what I mean?
Some of them you do. I'm a basketball coach, and I'm still teaching that. You know that's true. because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
on the staff.
I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had between like actions that say you want to win and words that say you want to. But somewhere down within, those kids want to win, and I wanted to win. I want to be the best that I could do. Like, I want to do a good job, and that's where, because we've had
Does
the
this have
conversation.
something to do with my
Yeah.
change?
Yeah, I'm going there. We've had the conversation before about, like, sometimes I say, like, I'm a little bit of a rebel, but sometimes I'm a rule follower, and both of those things are true. And in a setting at 17 years old, like, all of the money I have is what I'm going to make at this place. Because while my parents are fine and they're raising a good and they're doing the best they can, like, I'm not getting any of their money, even if they had some. So every dime I'm getting is going to come from this place. So I want to do good. I want my bosses to be like, yeah, okay, that's Matt. We can rely on Matt. So anyway, I've also been in a place where, like, somebody called in. I'm running for drive-through, meaning someone's at the drive-through taking, because if you've never done that, that's one of the hardest things that I can even conceive, because you're talking to someone through a speaker at the time. You're talking to someone through a speaker, taking their order, and you also have someone sitting right next to you, and you're cashing out their order. You understand?
And I've been in that spot on the other side of the window.
If you find somebody that can crush a McDonald's drive-through and, like, work it really well, they can do.
That's why that same kid is at that window every time I go to the Loves of Charleston.
They're
McDonald's.
probably the smartest person on the staff right now. That's not a manager.
I had that kid in class. I can imagine that. Sure.
But I said that to say, like, if you can find somebody that can, I'm not talking about they stand there, someone's taking the order, and they just hand out the order. Because it's a lot different now than it used to be. It used to, you have that one person, they're talking to you on the speaker. There's no pre-recording, there's none of that. And they're punching in your order while they're getting the change for the person that just paid them that's right beside them, okay? And your attention is it's literally a drunk driving test.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you go through the drive-through and you see that. Like, you'll see the person's taking your money and they're already getting the next person order that's 3 cars back.
That's right. If you find somebody that can come in and do that like it's breathing.
I feel like we're almost connecting to my story.
We're
today.
getting closer. So someone calls in. Those people are doing divided attention jobs, so somebody is running food to them. You know what I'm saying? They have enough to concentrate on, so you have a person that is putting together those food orders and staging it for them, and they just grab the food and hand it out the window, okay? When someone calls in, the front counter guy, who was me at 17 years old, is taking the orders in the front and putting together my own orders, delivering them to the people in the dining room. But I'm also putting together drive-through orders. I'm just saying there's a lot happening for a 17-year-old McDonald's employee. So then you get into this routine of, like, okay, this person's order is X amount of dollars. They're paying with a 20, and I'm just documenting that for the receipts, and it tells me the change. So you start training your brain to just get the money that the thing's telling you to get, okay? And then, like, it'll be some guy.
I'm that guy.
Yeah,
I'm that guy.
You're that guy. You'll walk up like nothing's happening, and they put it. Oh, he's paying with a 20, and they put it in, and they're counting out your change, and then you're like, oh, here's 2 dimes and a nickel, and you're like,
I'm that guy
all
all the
right,
time,
on.
almost
Hang
every
on.
time.
But I said that to say because
I should stop doing it. Is that what you're telling me?
No. Well,
Okay.
no. I'm just giving you the other perspective. Anybody who wants to enter like a simple math, let's just line up and see who can do simple math. I'll jump in that with anybody. even at 40, I would try. Then I would smoke. Like I was just good, just quick, boom, 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 boom.
You come so fast that you're doing it all the time,
bro. Like my brain is running a whole restaurant right now, and you just, this isn't the end of the world. Like I'm gonna figure it out. Give me a sec. But now, fast forward 20 years.
I was at a Coffee.
Hang on.
I was the only customer in line. He only had one thing to think about.
Fast forward 22 years, 23 years, and now this kid, I don't know, that kid might have had, I'm not going to even speculate what that kid has on his ACT, but he's just swiping cards all day, man. Tap your phone. And this guy, I get both sides of the conversation because it is like, hey, bro, I got the patience. I'll give you a second, and I'll even help you. But, like, figure it out, you know. And I will do that.
I really wanted that kid to figure it out today.
But I always there have been a couple instances where it would take me a second because it would just throw me off. And some guy who probably is on disability who's paying for his McDonald's, he hadn't even showered today, is like judging me because it took me a second, you know? And I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever.
I felt like I was the old guy who hadn't showered today in that story as well.
No, that's not true.
I am a gadfly, though. I find entertainment value in throwing people off their game just for fun. All right, what else you got?
Are we done talking about, or are you going to, what are you talking about when you say?
Well, you got to push this. You want to push this show out, right?
That's our ambition.
We've talked. This is number 3 that we've talked, and we're gonna call it the pause.
No, that was a.
Oh, that was a joke. That was a joke. Okay. Yeah. What are we gonna call it? Like, if you're gonna market this, like whether it's just for your classroom or whatever, or we're gonna put this on Spotify, you're gonna run this through the Bradley County Podcasting Network.
I only got one title. That's
you gotta have a title. What's your title?
Yes, it is. It's gold. It is absolute gold. Yes, it is. You have to say it out loud. It is. It is. Platinum.
We've not arrived at a title yet for our conversations.
If I could take you through our text thread, there'd be some entertainment value.
Yeah, we've arrived at several, but some people arrived at them before we did.
Yeah.
So
we got on research. That happens. So you've got that, right? But then you've got to figure out, like I'll help you with your intro, your exit. I'll do that, right?
Okay.
But then we got to figure out just, I don't know, the meat of it. You know, I think you're coming up with a good solution for your show, like your questions. Like you had 6 questions yet last week.
Oh, I've already refined it.
You've got them this week, right? And I guess, right, Matt?
Yeah, I've got a couple talking points.
Questions, like
yeah.
You need some talking points. But then, instead of, are they just questions, or like I think last week, your questions came off of almost, at least to me, a little more random. But then the more we talked about it, there was a purpose behind all of them.
That's my style.
So then maybe tying those back somehow educational wise, right?
I did. I tightened it up this week.
So then we'll keep that conversation, I guess.
But I like that week after week, like Matt takes this lead. He can build whatever structure he wants to, but he needs structure. I take the next week and I build my own structure, and I like that volley back and forth.
No, I think it's perfect. I think your structure is perfect on going back and forth and chiming in.
I'm about to change your mind.
But I think then, like, you got to think like you got your kids, your educational side of it, you're tying into. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's part of your show. This week we're going to tie it into this, or this is our theme, or you don't necessarily have to go down that road, but I think we need to tie it in sometime educationally if we're going to push it out, the avenue that we're going to push it out, right? And then the other stuff I can kind of walk you through, and we can, I can come on here and let's see, we can do, oh goodness. We can come in here and we can play some nice music, and or upbeat, oh, hey, we're welcome up. It's time. We're about to rock it,
Here we go.
You get it going. And it just kind of gets you pumped up, right? So we could,
Where's that been? Why have we waited till week 3?
It changes the mood, doesn't it?
We're still coming up with our identity.
Well, you need to throw that out a few times.
We can do that.
Today.
And then we got this one too. This is a fun one.
flush that idea.
That's a toilet flush. If you listen to there's an EdTech podcast out there called the Tech Flush. They do a tech flush tip of the day, and they flush the toilet every episode. Well, almost every episode.
I think I read a flyer about that one time.
It's probably in the bathroom at Walker Valley.
Where was I when I read that?
In the John. So you got bits and pieces of the show that we can work through, but I think the meat of it is just figuring out.
Matt needs to start making decisions.
What you want to do.
Wait till you ask this guy what he wants to do. Wait till you have the experience.
I got my notes, so we got no title yet. We're gonna do like each week. You're gonna
ask him a question.
You're gonna be a host this week. You're gonna be the host next week. Like,
yeah,
we're all like co-hosts, so you're bouncing back and forth. You've got your questions, but I think it needs to be more like maybe. I don't know, theme-led.
No,
like, hey, this question, we've got our history that we're going to talk about, and we're going to walk down this path of this time period. We're doing this in class, like whatever. Or maybe we're tying it in somehow. I think you got to tie it in educationally somehow. I don't know how that looks. Because it's not a set thing. Yeah. Like, y'all don't need to be, you don't want to be tied by a
I don't want to reveal what I've got in my notes until next week. But I'm closer to what you're saying. Yeah.
So my brain lives in this different space when we're around this table and when we're not around this table. And we have brought up that there's got to be enough of an educational tie here to sort of justify our time, justify this beautiful space that we're in. But man, I keep falling back as I think about this on my own. I keep falling back to this place of like. I think back to Paul and I's conversations over the past
years, man. Years.
I mean, too bad you didn't hit the record button on those.
A decade. Yeah. That's right. That's right. And that's what keeps leading me to like, if he and I, with no thoughts of a podcast or anything like that, sat down and had a conversation, literally with no agenda, you're going to hear tones of what he is saying in his classroom every day. And you're going to hear some tones of things that are being said in my classroom every day. Now, I don't want to go to where, I don't want structure. I'm not saying that. But I am okay with right now being the guy that's like, hold on. Let's remember the first time we walked in here and you just hit play and we just talked?
Yeah.
I want to replicate that over and over and over. Now, we have to sort of, at some point, to keep from saying the same things over and over, we gotta apply some sort of method to that. And I'm good with that. But we also agreed then that we'll just press play, man. And
I think you should. And I don't want to limit you to a script. I don't want to limit you to like formalities that like typically like the flow of a podcast, right? Because that's not what you two are about.
Sure.
But I think to a point, it's just you've got to have some.
I don't want to waste your time.
No, you're not wasting.
Right. That's right. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't. Like I said, I don't want it to. For someone who would listen to this, I don't want it to be like, oh, here's just another like.
Yeah, you don't want a bunch of rambling.
It's just a bunch of random.
Yeah. No, I think if you can tie, like, you still have your format that you're going for, you just tie it in somehow to what you're doing for the week, your questions, or what you're going to do in 4 weeks from now. Like, you just got to tie it in somehow.
Yeah.
And then you just have your normal conversation as without having the microphones here. Like, if y'all were going to sit at Walker Valley and have a conversation about what you're doing in class, now you're pulled in here. Because you may say, this week we got coming up, we've got this, we're looking on this website and we got these thoughts. But, Paul, is there anything like back in history that's talked about this or vice versa? Yeah. You can tie it in somehow with being more natural conversation. I'm not trying to force anything.
Okay, you ready? I have a vision.
You have a vision?
I have a vision.
Spit it.
Okay. There are times where we know, because we've planned this for class, that, for whatever reason in my book bag, I have this little clip-on microphone that goes to my iPhone, and I still haven't unboxed it yet. But I just
broke a set yesterday. Yeah,
I've always wanted to put it on and then just upload that to Schoology, so when kids say what I miss, hey, there's 20 minutes of our lecture right there. It goes with these notes and it goes with this what we're doing right here. Just for fun. Just for fun. Because what I'm saying is what you would be reading in these notes, because I'm the one who have prepared my notes that I give to kids. Okay? So, there could be times where we record something in class. I have you listen to it maybe in the podcast, and you give some sort of response. Hey, you give a little clip, and I'm not talking like 20 minutes. I'm talking like 2 minutes. Hey, listen to this 2-minute clip. The other thing I have, and I refuse to say this title, you will have to say it out loud. But from the drive over from Walker Valley to here is how many minutes?
20.
Is it 20? Traffic. Depends on traffic.
Depends on traffic.
The traffic at that time is pretty good. We push record. And we bring that conversation with us. So, like, the structure still exists within this space right here, but we can splice things. Remember, I'm just brainstorming here. We can splice things from class conversations, and we can splice things from teachers in trucks.
Teachers in trucks. Are we getting tacos?
I hope so. I wish every day we would go through the taco drive-thru to make this a reality. Every single time. You drive a truck, I drive a truck. What do you drive?
A car.
But he's not coming from
We don't have
Walker
to tell
Valley?
people that. We
I
don't
know.
have to tell
We
people
just
that.
did, but it's okay.
No,
We won't
I mean,
do
you
it.
could do that.
I
You know.
So I'm like, that becomes part of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
What was that
plus,
again? What in trucks? All I heard was tacos, and I got hungry.
It's totally ripping off Jerry Seinfeld.
And it's totally original for who we are. For who we are.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld has a show called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. So he throws this idea the other
Teachers
day.
in trucks.
Teachers in trucks getting tacos.
And him and I will just at random, and this is at the heart of our friendship, just go drive. It's either in my truck or it's in his truck. And so we're already teachers in trucks, and we ain't scared to stop at a Mexican restaurant and get a taco.
That's right.
So I'm just saying.
And maybe that's what you do. That's instead of coming here and sitting in a formal setting to record, go take your drive, record it. We can upload it. We can edit it. We can add the fanciness to the beginning, right? I can add the fanciness to the end of it, and you put it out there for the world. Like, it doesn't have to be in this space. You put it in this space because then you get more of a higher quality, right? But you're not looking for quality. You're looking for of
We
the
need
audio.
quantity before
You're thinking about what's in it, the words, what you're speaking, the ideas, the tying into your education. So that's different than like here.
My biggest concern right now is, can you hear the chomping of my gum? Because I love having gum when I talk, but I don't know if you can hear the chomp when I'm just listening to you.
Well, I feel like you're
You
doing
Maybe a little bit.
intentionally now.
But I've been concentrating. So I mean, like, no worries. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's keep brainstorming and see what.
Yeah, you just
what
gotta
comes of it.
keep working through like
Yeah, y'all.
you still have your genuine conversation, but to
Yeah.
a point, like again, like justifying coming here once a week, justifying using this with your kids.
Yeah, for sure. You guys have my brain rolling in 3 different directions.
It's the hard part is just getting started. The
Yeah,
hard
for
part is
sure,
putting
for
all
sure.
your things
At
together.
the end of the day, man, we are men. I am a Christian husband, father, teacher, brother, son,
Yeah.
and sometimes I got some things to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not very intelligent and it's not very articulate.
But it's fun.
It's fun and it's
It's just genuine conversation.
It's not things that I'm gonna say to anybody really that doesn't spend a lot of time with me.
Yeah.
You understand? But for some reason, when we press play, I have no problem sharing a lot of things that maybe I don't share with just colleagues in passing.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
It just
looking
this
for an outlet.
this creates like a safe space. That's like for me. Like again, we go back to this idea. If I saw you at Walmart, hey Matt, hey Paul,
Yeah.
and we would talk quickly, and I'm like, all right, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
But like sometimes when you're in certain settings, it just becomes safe. Like work is maybe a safe space for me where I can sit and I can talk to you about whatever, but then I can't do that outside of that. It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I could.
We'll practice with you.
Yeah, we'll hang out. We'll go get some tacos in your trucks.
And I know this. I know the people that care, or maybe they don't care, about Paul Salzville. They want to know a little more about Paul Salzville at times. So I'm gonna press those stories at least early to sort of pique the interest or answer a question for people. There's people that Paul works with every day that they don't know everything about this guy, and they don't go to these places in conversation with him, but I guarantee you they'd be interested to know a couple of things about him. Which brings me to my first talking point. You ready?
Ooh, smooth transition. I knew it was coming.
We are here in the beautiful Williams podcast studio at the Pi Innovation Center. Is that right?
Carolyn Williams.
Carolyn Williams? Yeah. It's a pretty cool place, isn't it?
It is. It's beautiful.
You spent all day here or at
Pie-Palooza.
Yeah, had Pie-Palooza here today. Now, if I were to cross the street in either direction, I would be on Lee University campus, yes?
Technically, the baseball field, you'd still kind of be at Ocoee, but otherwise, yeah, you would end up on Lee over there.
So I could cross one street and I'd be on Ocoee Middle, where you spent a lot of your early career, 14 years. And I want to get there. I want to hear a lot about that. I want to give you the opportunity to talk about it for people that don't know you, maybe like I know you, and for me too. But I want to back up just a little bit, because to lead you there, you're going to land at this beautiful campus. Is it Lee University at the time, or is it Lee College?
Lee College, fall 95. Fall of 97, it converts to university, and we get new basketball jerseys.
Okay. Hang on. Don't, like, I'm pulling the reins just a little. Because we could go right now, and I could hear about that all day. Back me up. The other day, you said in 94 you were a junior in high school. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Can you take me to that spot, knowing that you're leading me to your Lee University story? Could you back me up to 94, maybe late junior year, early senior year? What's that look like for you as far as where you're going to go to school? What's going on in your life?
Yeah. So my junior year, I mean, I up until that year, you know, I had dreams of playing Kentucky basketball, because we've grown up in Ohio. That's what it was. Reality sets in for every single athlete except the few that get signed by Kentucky every year. And it's like, I'm not going to Kentucky and playing the SEC. I'm going to play, if I play at all, at some little school that just wants me to play. By the time I get to my senior year, I had went to some camps this summer, and LaGrange down in Georgia gave me a look and an invitation to come. But, I mean, there wasn't a lot of prospects for me to play college basketball just yet. Now, my 47-year-old coaching self now can look back and go, hey, if you're playing small-time ball, you're not going to sign until after your senior year. But when you're in it and no one has ever told you that, you think, like, is this going to happen or not?
So are you a standout at this point in high school?
No, I will never stand out my whole entire basketball career.
You're just a kid who loves the game.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
I'm just a pretty good player. Okay. So my senior year starts, and my dad's doing financial planning for the military. And at Christmas, he says, hey, we're moving from the Navy base in Charleston, South Carolina, to the biggest Marine base in the world, Camp Lejeune, Jacksonville, North Carolina. You want to stay here and graduate, or you want to go to North Carolina? Now, for both of you, could you imagine the middle of your senior year?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seems like, I don't want to move, but, like, I was a kid with still a dream, and a coach that, man, he wasn't cool. He wasn't cool. I've done a lot of work in therapy, just to say, not a cool guy. And I've been able to move on later in life. So I told my dad, I'll go. Will you holler at somebody and see if I could join their team in the middle of Christmas break? Like,
so basketball
let's
started.
Go try it. We're 3-5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a pretty good player on a pretty bad team.
Oh, wow.
And so he goes up there and says, hey, we're about to move here. Now, I mean, these are military towns, so they get people moving in all the time. Sure. Nothing is ever unexpected. So he goes to Coach Greg Grantham and says, hey, I got a kid. We're about to move. Can he at least try out? Can he come during the break and just practice with you one time, and you just make a decision? And if it works for you, great. And if not, we totally understand. So, man, I go up there and I practice with him, and he was like, yeah, you can play with us. And within 2 weeks, I'm starting, which made a lot of people unhappy. And another 2 weeks, and I hurt my knee, and I'm out for 2 weeks. And then there's only 2 weeks left of the season. So I end with like, ugh. I mean, like, I've moved. No one knows me up here. But I'll tell you what, Greg Grantham, you know, you have people in your life that go, I see you. Even if you can't see what's inside of you yourself just yet, I see you.
Yeah.
And for about the next 6 weeks after school, we'd hop in and we'd drive to North Carolina Wesley, or we'd go to Barton College, or High Point. Anywhere he knew somebody, he called him up and say, "Hey, I got a kid. I think he could play at your level." And so I got these little, hey, we'll throw you a little bit of money here, we'll throw you a little money there. I had academic money everywhere. But on the side, I had already been accepted to DePaul University in Chicago on an academic scholarship, half academic. So I'm thinking Chicago, big city, be a scholar. Barton, small town, 2 hours away from home. I could play a little basketball.
What's your career ideas at this moment, at this point in your life? Do you have them?
Preacher, maybe.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But my senior year, when I get to North Carolina, there's another lady. Two people that step into my life that I can still look back on. Miss Ringo taught a sociology class. So they just put me in there because I'm this second semester senior, and they just find classes for me.
So you just accidentally found sociology?
That's right.
And now that's not a big deal, but knowing you, that's a big deal.
It is at the core of who I am as a learner, and even as a history teacher. And this lady, Miss Ringo, just opened me up to some other universe, man. And sociology, the study of how humans interact. I'm a guy who notices patterns, and I'm insecure enough to super notice body language, facial expressions, eye contact, lack of.
Yeah.
And I determine my self-worth as a young man by what I receive from other people non-verbally. So we're now studying this, and I'll eventually go to Lee and major in sociology, and then pick up history later on. So these two people come in my life, and just the trajectory of my life just changes forever. But Lee is not even on the map. I have a sister who's 4 years older and said, "Come to Lee." And I said, "Never." So she's a freshman at Lee. I'm a freshman in high school. Sophomore year, same thing, same conversation, never. But here's the thing. I love my sister a lot. She, in so many ways, raised me. Every spring break, I never went anywhere else. I would go to Lee University. I came to Cleveland, Tennessee for 4 spring breaks in a row. I would stay at her apartment. She'd drop me off at the rec center with lunch at about 11. She'd pick me up either at the arena or the outdoor courts at 11. And she'd bring me dinner then. And I just played ball at Lee for spring break 4 years in a row. Now, the 4th time I came, I hopped on a Greyhound from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Knoxville. She came and picked me up. 2 a.m. So we're driving back. It's 3 a.m. She's like, "Hey, it's Lee Day this weekend." I now know what Lee Day is. Mm-hmm. Then she's like, "I think they're playing basketball in the gym at 8 a.m. I'm a senior in high school. I'm not getting up at 8 a.m. to go play basketball. I'll be there at noon. So she was like, "All right, well, whatever." Boys, 7 a.m., I'm wide awake. Very few times can I look back on my storyline and go, maybe divine intervention, maybe.
Really?
I'm up, and I'm like, "Just take me to the gym, will you?"
So you didn't plan on being up?
No.
Literally didn't plan on it?
Again, I said no, just like I had said never. Well, I show up, and there are 80 kids in the gym. 80. At an open tryout for Lee University. I'm either going to DePaul or I'm going to Barton College. I'm either going to be a scholar or I'm going to be a small-time basketball player. I got options. I'm not trying out today. I just happened to walk into the gym. Yeah. Well, I hear these guys, and a lot of them are small Christian high schools from Georgia to Ohio and everything in between. And they're like, "Oh, this is the year I'm going to show Coach what I got." And I'm thinking, these guys are serious. These guys are literally trying out. I'm going to do my best to help them out. And so full court, both sides, and we're just playing basically pickup basketball. And I am just setting people up. I don't even need to take one shot. Well, they take 20 out of the 80.
So even at that moment, this is, in your mind, this is not your tryout. This is their tryout.
You're just playing ball.
I am, for some reason, I woke up today.
This is why I asked this question. I have no clue of his mind.
For some reason. There was no good reason I was up at 8 a.m.
Keep going.
Now, there are so many pieces of the story that unveiled themselves later in life. But so they picked 20 out of the 80 and said, "Hey, we want y'all to scrimmage against our team." Well, there was a kid there who was a Church of God kid. Remember, Lee's a Church of God institution. His name is Nate Turner. He's 6'9". He just signed with Xavier, but he's here with his youth group. Now, I grew up in Ohio. I grew up with Nate. I know Nate. Hey, Nate, let's run some pick and rolls. We're about to get our butts kicked by a college team. So let's just, let's just see what happens. We literally scrimmaged. It was 80-20. And I bet Nate and I had probably all 20 points. And we're just running some pick and rolls and we're just handling our own against these college athletes, right? And by the end, Coach Carpenter says, hey, can I tell you more about Lee? And in my head, I'm telling you, I can, no. In my head. Remember, I'm a polite, grew up in military towns. Yeah. Of course I said, yes, sir. But in my head, I'm like, I'm never coming here. Don't waste your time, let alone mine. Well, he was like, hey, you sticking around? Yeah, I said, I'll be here. I'm with my sister on spring break. I'm going to come to my office tomorrow, and we'll sit down and chat. And I'm still saying no. Well, I come. 2 hours later, Coach Carpenter, he's a talker. Just passed away this weekend.
That's right.
I mean, there is no other reason why I'm sitting in this room with y'all right now without that man. Watch this. Just like Coach Grantham and just like Miss Ringo, who saw something in me that I did not see in myself just yet. And he said, hey, you care if we stay in contact with you? And I'm telling you guys, I'm down to 2 options. I'm good, right? I just have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I go home 2 weeks later. He's like, hey, with your ACT score and basketball monies, we can get you to a full ride. You want to come to Lee? So I hang up the phone. I said, hey, let me talk with my dad. I'll let you know. So I hang up the phone. I'm like, Dad, I think I might be going to Lee because this is the situation that we're in. Because Barton was giving me a quarter and a quarter, which got me to half, and DePaul was giving me half. And so I was still going to have to come up with a bunch of money, but, we'll figure that out.
Yeah. Can you draw the comparison there for me, just because I don't know at the time, Lee College versus a Barton versus
Sure.
Basketball-wise,
yeah,
and maybe academically?
Okay, so Lee is NAIA at the time, and they're affiliated with the NCCAA.
That's right.
So that's the Christian Association. There's 108 teams. It's a legit. They play for a championship. They had one recently, just a couple years before. Sarah will end up winning in '99. It's kind of a big deal. The NAIA is about twice that size, and it's basically Division II basketball. The higher echelon of NAIA is competing at a Division II level. Barton is Division II, NCAA at the time. Okay. So, it's about even.
Yeah.
Okay. And man, I said yes to Lee. And so, it was a string of I've got it somewhere in my journals, 7 or 8 nevers that I said within about a 3-year period. And every single one of those nevers, from getting married while I'm still in college, all of them happened, including staying in this town. Because I'll come to Lee, but I'm never going to stay here. That was fall of '95, buddy. Here I am. I've raised 3 boys. This is home.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, before we move on, you want to say anything else about Coach Carpenter? I'm a fan of keeping these things evergreen, but it'd be hard to pass by that guy and not let you have a moment to just maybe other times in your life when he's had an impact on you, or things that he has saw in you or said to you maybe that you remember?
He changing my life is not an understatement. So Tuesday, he shows up for a volleyball game at Walker Valley. This past Tuesday. Yeah. Ella is his granddaughter. Yeah. And Sarah and I get to chat with him. He's in great spirits. You can tell he's tired. And they had already told him 2 weeks. And we were at about 10 days. And got to hug him, got to kiss him on the head, got to hang out with Zach. It was I took a walk last night, so I've processed a bunch and just expressed my gratitude. But when I was in college, Lee had a lot of success before my career and had a lot of success after my career, and Lee is only in its storied history never, ever had 4 years of losing in a row, except when I was there. And I redshirted my first year, and we won 25 games. Okay, so I'm thinking, all right, cool. I'm in a winning program. And boom, 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 boom. My junior year, he retires. A new coach comes in. That senior year, one of the worst experiences of my whole entire life. Even now at 47, I can still claim that. But also in the middle of coaching us last year, us having the worst season in Lee men's basketball history, I'm a part of that. My parents separate, and I am searching because my dad was on a pedestal. He's no longer on the pedestal. It wasn't as if Jesus appeared on the pedestal and I was able to just like attach myself to Christ alone. No, I was lost. I was lost. And so I am this kind, good kid because I was raised to be that, and that's what I was. I was a rule follower. And something within me just broke, and he bore the brunt of that. 10 years later, I'm in his office, and he knew more about my parents than I did in that moment. Sarah's parents knew more about my parents than I did in that moment. So here I am 10 years down the road. I've now got kids, and I'm in Coach Carpenter's office. And I mean, just a tear down my cheek, man, going, hey, man, I didn't know any better. I'm sorry. Nothing but a hug. He gave me nothing but a hug. He didn't give me no speech. He didn't give me nothing but a hug. And so, and that was a time where, I was in therapy. I was figuring some stuff out. I had someone in my life saying things can be undone because that really did rock my world. And he was a guy who stuck and stayed, which is now my greatest definition of what love is these days. It's not hugs and kisses. It is those who stick and stay with us are the ones who truly love us and the ones that we let love on us. And so Coach Carpenter, he's on that list, man, of showing me what love looks like. Because in any way, no matter what I said, no matter what I did, man, I mean, he never hated on me. He never shunned me. He never pushed me aside. And so
you're a celebrity. I have to get your attention for these. There's students outside the studio window that are dying for this man's attention right now. So I hate to break that moment.
No. I get
those
it.
people wanted you to look at them so bad.
I mean, Lee changed my life, and it wasn't Lee basketball in the end.
Yeah.
It was that Lee experience, and that was part of the experience. I learned how to lose. Like, losing ain't a big deal now. And it used to be connected to my very identity. Scoreboard said I lost, I'm a loser. Scoreboard said I won, I'm a winner. But you played almost 40 games. So your identity changes that many times. That's unhealthy. And the scoreboard was still on when I graduated. And even when I got married. And those boys that we had, Sarah and I, started to take one light bulb out at a time. You tracking what I'm saying? The scoreboard is nothing but little light bulbs up there.
Yeah.
And those kids really, I mean, I tell my boys all the time now, 21, 19, and almost 17, they have taught me so much about myself. Gosh.
I get that.
Yep.
I get that. It's cool that we sort of incidentally landed up on Coach Carpenter when we did. I want to back up for just a second. Let me take you back to senior year. You've landed in a sociology classroom. Did you know pretty quickly, this is me, this is a thing for me?
Nope.
Is it going to be at that high school where your interest gets
I will
piqued?
by the end of that semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about in the world? Things going on in the world. Are you looking at those through the eyes of a sociologist yet? Because there's going to be something happening in April of '95. That's where we're at, right? That I wanted to at least stop by this place while we're in this conversation and just, there's some things going on in the United States in '95, and we could make this nexus between Dave Koresh down in Texas and you've heard of Ruby Ridge. You know this story? That's a story we'll get into another time. That's a whole.
You got me stuck. There's Ruby Bridges.
Ruby Bridges. Okay, so Ruby Ridge, Pacific Northwest, very independent type, conservative. I say that with quotation fingers. This guy goes and takes his family and says, I don't like civilization anymore. I just want to go off the grid, and he does. And he starts attending this church. Which will turn out later to be a meeting of Aryans, okay, like Aryan Nation type people who are, from all accounts, he didn't go there with those intentions, but he got around those types of people, and as part of an investigation that the federal government's doing into that group of people, and I'm already talking about this longer than I wanted to, but they're going to issue a warrant for him for selling a shotgun to one of those parishioners of that church. And it's a sawed-off shotgun. The ATF gets involved. And so they subpoena this guy to court. And he's like, no, I'm good. I ain't coming down off my hill. We're raising our own food. This guy has small children that don't even know civilization exists like it does. It's a very different thing. Anyways, long story short, the government uses its muscle, and there's sad stories come all out of that place, including one where there's surveillance happening on his little family compound, and his like 12-year-old son discovers them while he's hunting with a rifle and ends up losing his life. Everybody's going to end up losing their life in that story.
Rich.
Aside from, I believe, his wife and his youngest baby. But they're going to shoot, and I didn't study for this conversation because I didn't expect it to go here, but they're going to shoot through the door of his cabin, a sniper. This is after his son and the dog. The dog's what got his son. The government killed his son. But his son's out hunting with a dog, and his dog discovers people in ghillie suits in the edge of the woods. And, you know, put yourself in. I like to think of it from different perspectives. I like to think of it from like, okay, here's this guy who's gone rogue. He's selling illegal firearms according to my superiors. And I'm going and I have an objective to do. And I know that he is at least resistant toward the government. And now, as I'm approaching, I've found me a good spot to hide. Here comes a 12-year-old boy with a shotgun or a rifle and a dog. That's a tough spot. You're in a bad spot. I won't speculate on what happened. I've seen speculations from both sides on how those men behaved in that time. But in that transaction, the dog alerts the boy to their presence. And when however they make their presence known to this boy, he raises a rifle and he loses his life. That's a sad world. But I said all that to say things like this are speaking to a mind that's across the plains in another part of the country named Timothy McVeigh. Okay, and he starts developing his own opinions about the government and certain things. So that's some big things are going to go down with this guy in 95. And my question to you is, are you at a place in your senior year where you're aware enough of things going on in the world that you have any memory of that?
Yeah, and I'll give credit where credit is due. Channel 1. You remember Channel 1?
I do remember Channel 1.
Yeah, I remember Channel 1.
So Channel 1 with Anderson Cooper and Lisa Ling started when I was in high school. They came into our high school in the early 90s and started putting those monitors up in the classrooms.
I don't remember it good enough that I could have told you Anderson Cooper and Lisa Ling was on there.
They're the originals. Did you know that?
No, you just taught me that.
There you go.
Right now.
Yeah. And so, like, we watched Channel 1 every
Homeroom?
single day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember getting to Ocoee Middle School, which had just transitioned from Bradley Jr., and all those monitors were still up in classrooms. They had not taken those down yet, but no one was watching Channel 1 anymore. But, I mean, like, I recognized those monitors.
Well, I can tell you, a few years before that at Bradley Junior High School, you met in homeroom every day, and you watched Channel 1.
Yeah.
Or you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're going to sit here and you're going to watch this TV.
So we were getting kind of the way that CNN 10 works today.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the best 10 minutes of student news that you can get. There's a hesitation for some as soon as they hear CNN.
Sure.
All I want people to hear is 10 minutes of student news.
Right.
And they do a really great job of, for those teachers who consistently expose kids to that, they have a clue. And that's really what we want to do at this season of life. And so when you say that, yeah, in that season of life, yeah, I'm totally, because it's unfolding, David Koresh unfolding, right?
Yeah.
What happens at Oklahoma City, it happens, and then how it unravels, different word. Yeah, we're right there with all of it. Now, my filter, I mean, it's still a 17-year-old filter, right? And
Sure.
I had a cork board in my room with a desk and a chair, and I used to write sermons as a 15, 16-year-old, and I would put a little push pin in that corkboard with my sermons. And like my filter was, it was the church. It was the Pentecostal church. So anything in that light that came up was through the filter of 90s Pentecostalism. I'll just be honest. It wasn't, you asked me earlier, sociology, and I did a little chuckle. No, it wasn't sociology. It wasn't any historical context whatsoever.
Sure.
It was through the lens of the powerful voice in the pulpit every Sunday. So I had Channel 1 giving me a clue, and then there was always a preacher who was given a lot of authority in our lives to craft what was happening in the world. So it is interesting for me in 2024 at 47 to look back on the events of the 90s with a totally different lens, a totally different filter, and go, a lot of, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's fascinating to look back on. It's still sick and sad, the events that happened.
Yeah.
But like what was truly happening in the world, I don't know how full the context was from the pulpit that we were getting at that age, a very impressionable age. You know, and that Pentecostal filter was still in that Church of Godly University experience in the mid-90s. But as I got into sociology, now you start to like reach back a century and start going, people have been looking at each generation through a lens of how do humans interact, because it's about how long sociology has been around.
Yeah.
And like, man, I teach now my history class in 4 themes and 9 generations after the Civil War. So we're not memorizing a lot of dates, but by golly, we are understanding the chronology of generations. And like, I mean, Billy Joel has become a really big deal in my class the last few semesters, where it talks about we didn't start the fire, but do you know how this verse goes?
No. Go.
Billy Joel?
I'm going to know it as soon as you say it, but keep going.
I'm gonna leave it left unspoken. I'm gonna let it just linger in your brain.
I just can't pull the words right now.
Because it speaks to every single generation. Whatever is burning right now in your generation, okay, we didn't start it. Someone else started it. But by golly, we're going to light something up. And it's still going to be burning into the next generation.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, like, we look at, hey, what's going on in your generation? That's how we start all 4 of my themes. But then we reach back and go, I mean, like, you can go back to Reconstruction, the Gilded Age, the Progressive Era, and see, like, man, there's still a mess going on. But there is always people in every generation who rise up and say, not on my watch. Yeah. Not on my watch. And so you have that dynamic, you have that tension, you have that very human element that goes all the way back to ancient civilization when people are like fighting for territory. Now we fight for territory on social media. We fight for territory even still physically over borders. You know what I mean? So the dynamic has seemingly grown as technology has grown, which as society has shifted. But I mean, I could talk along those lines for a long time. So my filter back then was through religion, just to be honest.
Yeah, I get that. And that's why I asked if you were seeing it through a sociologist's eyes yet. Because I just want to, at some point, I want to kind of see the line of where that, and we can't start that now or we'll be here for 4 hours. But at some point, I do want to delve in and see, like, because that's a whole other topic. When does that preacher, I'm not saying that preacher's voice is ever going to get any quieter, but I bet it will. And you'll start seeing it through the eyes of someone who is a little more understanding of the world and a little more understanding of people and maybe a little more understanding of yourself. And
all those things. And
you'll start seeing things from different eyes. I have very similar experiences in that regard. I remember in, I want to say it's in like 3rd grade, and having a conversation with my teacher about, like, hey, there was this election, but why isn't Bill Clinton taking office yet? You know, I'm just kind of giving you my age there. And that was my first experience of, like, my 3rd grade teacher, that wasn't anywhere on her standards to teach me how the transition of power takes place in the United States. But there are, and I'm not saying that's where I got my education on that, but I can remember things from that conversation. Sure. And, you know, I'm still proud. I have no clue who my 3rd grade teacher voted for, or if she was happy Bill Clinton was. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm proud of that. I appreciate that of her. yeah, that's a cool conversation, man. I just anytime we're talking these personal stories, because you're an open book. I don't think there's a lot of questions I could ask you that you wouldn't answer. I don't know that I can say the same about myself. But anytime we pass things like that, when we're talking 1994, 1995, I'm going to try to make that bridge because, maybe in a week or two, I'm going to start talking about the memory of people. Flashbulb memories. I mentioned that term to you today. Like the biggest one probably for most of us in our lifetime is 9/11. For my maybe my parents or my grandparents' generation, one for them was the death of Elvis Presley. Mm-hmm. Like those people know where they were when they received that news. But I want to visit that topic at some point, not today.
Good, because I was ready to roll. The challenge.
Yeah.
Princess Diana.
Yeah, that's right. We
like
could listen. How long could we go on about this?
Oh, yeah. The San Francisco earthquake during the World Series.
Yeah. How about I can see the team and I can see the player. Who's the first player that got quarantined? NBA player got quarantined.
Rudy Gobert. Who's touching on all the microphones, making a joke.
Rudy Gobert gets quarantined, and we're like, this is crazy. And within less than 24 hours, the NBA is off.
Yep.
Like, they're done. Like, I don't remember those as flashbulb as 9/11, but I remember being on the golf course with Derek Vestal, a football coaching friend of mine, when my wife called and said, somebody just came through our pharmacy. Don't tell nobody. She didn't mention a name. Somebody just came through our pharmacy that has COVID. And I literally felt real fear for my wife. Because at that time, I guess I was of the belief that you get this, you're done. You're going to, it's over.
That's all you saw on the news or anyplace else.
Yeah. But anyways, I don't want to get into COVID. I was talking about flashbulb memories, but I want to tell
into it. We just ripped off six straight.
I want to tell those stories. Until next time, I want to tell those stories.
Yeah.
And I want to share with you some stories of people who have flashbulb memories that literally did not happen. Okay, and that's how I'll make my. That's how I'll make my transition into my classroom is we'll start talking about a government agency that goes and not a government agency, a private agency that goes and tries government cases that were convicted and sentenced prior to DNA technology being where it is now. And every one of those were convicted by a jury in most cases. Some cases there was a plea deal and it was the best they were going to get. But some it was a jury and a victim looking at the offender and saying, yes, that's the person who harmed me, who raped me, who whatever the crime is. And that victim had no ill intention, had no ill will, and 1,000% believed that that was the person who did these things to them. Wow. So that's the area that I'm inching toward.
Yep.
But I wanted to start it with, tell me about Lee.
Yeah. We about to push pause?
I'm ready to push pause when you are, because if we say much more, we're going to talk till 9 o'clock tonight.
Let's push pause.
We get an outro like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's no music or nothing. Like he just said that he
know if
knew
y'all
what
were-
we
It's just a
wanted.
big tease, man. I mean, like, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there.
So in this episode of 2 Men in a Truck. No, teachers. I don't know. We were talking about men earlier.
555-8762.
We're starting a new business. We got a podcast and we're moving people. It's going to be awesome.
Please tell me you're still recording.
I am.
Yes.
You've got it all here, man. I've learned from episode 1 with y'all, or the first time. I'm not pushing it until I absolutely have to. and we're getting close to that point.
Thanks for the story, Paul.
Yeah, man.
That's a big deal to me, man. I appreciate you sharing.
Yep. I appreciate you asking.
There's more to that story, and I'm gonna dig it out.
Yeah. Yep.
There you go. Till next time.
This is Teachers Not Yet in a Truck.
We don't have any tacos.
Not crunching on any tacos.
It is Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday.
Man, that's downright mindful. You've been listening to Downright Mindful with your hosts, Matt Paris and Paul Salzville. Produced by Josh Morris. Intro and outro production by Derek Kinsey. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Thanks for listening.